Good afternoon. I took an oath when I became Harris County District Attorney. I swore to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the state of Texas and of the United States. I take my duty and that oath very seriously. I follow the law and seek justice in every case because it's the right thing to do. 2 years ago, then District Attorney Mike Anderson agreed that Alfred Brown should be granted a new trial. It was the right thing to do. During the appeals process, our office discovered a phone record that was inadvertently not disclosed to the defense. We immediately turned that record over to Brown's defense team. In November 2014, the Court of Criminal Appeals granted relief in this case, a new trial for Mr. Brown. When Brown's case was sent back for a new trial, I assigned some of our best prosecutors to work with the Houston Police Department to conduct a fresh and thorough review of this case. They have now completed their work and reported their findings to me. After very careful and deliberate consideration, I have decided that at this time there is insufficient evidence to proceed with a new trial. Accordingly, we have dismissed Alfred Brown's capital murder case earlier today. At this time, it's the right thing to do. My heart goes out to the family of Officer Clark and Alfreda Brown, whose losses and continuing grief cannot be comprehended. I can only assure them that their loved ones will never be forgotten, and our pursuit of justice for those responsible will never cease. The investigation into the deaths of Officer Clark and Alfreda Jones remains open. When new evidence is discovered, this office will review it and proceed accordingly. There is no statute of limitations for capital murder, and I remain hopeful that justice will be done for these victims one day. Because this investigation remains open and active, I will not be able to discuss the details of this case. At this time, I turn the podium over to Chief McClellan, Houston Police Department.
All right, thank you very much, Judge Anderson. I'm here to support Judge Anderson in her most difficult decision in what she had to do regarding this case. It is the right thing to do, and I understand her difficult decision, and we wish that certainly there was another outcome for Charlie's family and Alfreda's family. April 3rd, 2003 was a very difficult day for this city and especially the Houston Police Department. 2 innocent people were murdered by criminal thugs who decided to commit a robbery and take something that wasn't theirs and kill 2 people in trying to escape. Alfreda Jones was a young single mother working very hard trying to support a newborn. I was at the scene of that crime after it took place. I even went to Miss Jones' funeral, as I did Charlie's. I spoke to Mrs. Jones' family and understood what Alfreda meant to them, the difficult days that they would have going forward without their daughter and to raise small grandchildren. Charlie was an excellent police officer for over 20 years. He was looking forward to retirement with his wife. He had no children, so he cherished the time, the quiet time he and his wife spent together, and he was only a couple of months away. Both of these murders were senseless, callous, and cold-blooded. And I will use every available resource in any and all lawful means to try to come up with evidence to support what I believe, and try to make sure that we can give Judge Anderson something that she can prove. And I promise this to both families. We will never forget, nor will we ever quit. Thank you. And now I want to introduce Joe Grimaldi from the Houston Police Officers Union.
Let me start by saying the Houston Police Officers Union is here today to support District Attorney Anderson and her incredibly difficult decision that she had to make today. But let us be clear that we believe we had the right man at that time, and we believe we have the right man now. There is no statute of limitations on capital murder. We will continue to seek justice for the Clark family. We will not stop until justice is served for them. My heart goes out to them as they will have to suffer once again through a lengthy trial and a lengthy investigation. But we will not be deterred, and we will not stop. And for those of you out there who are saying that this individual was wrongfully convicted, you're wrong. He wasn't wrongfully convicted. He's just been granted a new trial, and there is a big difference between those two. Thank you.
We'll take questions at this time.
What is the difference between those two?
Well, the reason we dismissed the case, and the reason that you'll see on the dismissal form that was filed earlier today, was that we have insufficient evidence to corroborate accomplice witness testimony.
Were you able to determine how the phone records went missing for so long?
Sorry?
Were you able to determine how the phone records went missing for so long?
That's something I'm not going to be able to comment because it's an open investigation.
And why did it take so long to decide whether you're going to prosecute or not?
This was a capital murder case involving two citizens who were brutally murdered. When the case is remanded to us, was that 11 years later? We basically had to conduct a new investigation. As I said before, we put a team of experienced prosecutors who have a lot of experience, particularly in the capital murders of police officers. Together with the Houston Police Department, they re-investigated the entire case, re-interviewed every witness who testified, many who never did, reviewed thousands of pages of the appellate record, of the writ record, reviewed all of the physical evidence, DNA, fingerprints, ballistics. It takes time to do that. We want to make sure we got it right. At this time, we do not have evidence to proceed on this case.
Do you feel like, had this investigation been conducted appropriately the first go around, and documents wouldn't have been left and other things? I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, but had it been conducted perhaps by the book, you would have a different outcome?
I regret that that phone record was not turned over to the defense at the time. We wouldn't be standing here if it had been. There's no doubt. I regret that that happened. Judge Ellis and the Court of Criminal Appeals found that that was an inadvertent non-disclosure. So we live with human mistakes. Humans are responsible for this case, and we live with them, and we do the best we can with what we have. But at this time, again, we have insufficient evidence to proceed.
And Chief, if you guys tell us about the internal affairs investigation relating to this case, or how the phone records ended up where they did, is there any ongoing investigation to exactly what happened?
No, there is no internal affairs investigation into this case because there is no violations of department policy. I won't comment specifically on the evidence because this is an ongoing case, but I want to make it clear to you, Maya, that this case wasn't bungled, wasn't improperly investigated. Matter of fact, it was properly investigated. But none of the homicide detectives or investigators committed any department violations. They didn't commit any acts of criminal law, violations of the law. They didn't.
Well, Chief, if, as you say, the case was bungled, the case got thrown out on appeal because records the police officer had were in his garage, not turned over to prosecutors and the defense. So how's that not bungled?
Well, because you're inaccurately describing what happened and what records. I'm not going to speak specifically, but there are many, many times that investigators make copies of notes of their cases, copies of documents, but they're not allowed to have the original documents. So I just want to caution you about.
That's why I asked the question.
Well, but that's why I'm telling you. We didn't find that our officers did anything inappropriate. So when you say records that are in someone's garage, there's an official copy, and many officers make copies of their case files.
Right. Were those copies, or was that the official copy?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the evidence, but I just want to caution you that we didn't find any inappropriate wrongdoing on any member's part.
So if nobody made any mistakes on the police part, and this case still got thrown out, and obviously and you guys still believe this is the man who messed it up?
Well, I'm not pointing the fingers at anyone. I'll just reiterate what Judge Anderson said. People are human, and inadvertent things can happen, and I'm not going to comment on the specifics of how those records were inadvertently not turned over to his defense team. But no one violated department policy in the Houston Police Department or violated any criminal act. And that's the most important part.
Chief, why can't we go?
Because I know that's what you want, and that's what you would like to report, but it's not true.
It's what we'd like to share with the public, yes, you're right. Is it-
Yeah, I know you would like to share that a police officer did something wrong in this case.
No. We're just trying to find out what happened. That's
Well-
what we're asking, but you're telling us you can't tell us.
I'm just saying I'm limited in what I can tell you. And if there was a hint of a police officer doing something wrong that come to my attention, I have a duty and responsibility
Why is
to
it-
launch an internal affairs
why is it
investigation.
we can't discuss that if this is not under prosecution?
Because it's an ongoing case.
And I can clarify as far as the district attorney's role in this, that during the writ process, so first you have your direct appeal, and this conviction was affirmed on appeal, and then they had the right to file a writ, and during that process is when a lot of the investigation takes place because the defense makes many, many allegations. We investigate each and every one of those allegations. During that investigation, we discovered that piece of paper, that phone record. And that is a Brady violation, clear and simple. Mike Anderson realized that, realized it was material to the case, to the defense, and immediately turned it over. It was overnighted that day to the defense in D.C., this law firm in D.C. that's helping Alfred Brown. So that's why we're here. That's why the Court of Criminal Appeals granted him a new trial, because there was a material Brady violation that we agreed to, and we joined the defense in asking for relief in this case. Relief was granted. The case was kicked back almost a year later, but when we got it, since we've had a team investigating, reinvestigating the case to see if we can pursue this case in trial. As it stands right now, we have insufficient evidence to go forward. That's why I dismissed the case earlier today.
What happens to Alfred Brown now? Will he be released?
Yes, he's going to be released.
Will that happen today?
Yes. It should happen today. The paperwork has been filed, and the gears of the machine grind. slowly, but I don't know what time he'll be out, but he'll be out sometime today, maybe early morning hours. It's the sheriff, I don't know.
Was the grand jury questioning of the alibi witness at all a factor in your decision?
No. No, we started an entirely new investigation. We looked at everything.
And on the comment that was made earlier about the wrongful conviction, I think when members of the media, or at least when I've used it, I'm not necessarily talking about innocence. I'm talking about somebody who went through the process and the process wasn't just. So that's what I mean by wrongful conviction. But why would you say this is not a wrongful conviction?
Well, so I don't, that's a term of art that I'm not comfortable, the wrongful conviction is a term of art. I'm not comfortable using or discussing. I can tell you that he got a new trial. We re-interviewed all the witnesses. We looked at all the evidence, and we're coming up short. I don't know how else to say it. We cannot prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Therefore, the law demands that I dismiss this case and release Mr. Brown.
Judge, can I make one comment?
Sure.
When we're talking about, when you say how you use the term wrongful conviction, how does your reader interpret it? I think that's what the obligation that all of you have today. Because I can tell you, they interpreted that an innocent person is in jail and shouldn't be there. And that's different when you say wrongful conviction. I haven't seen any evidence that proves or convinces me that this individual is not guilty. Now, just because I believe that doesn't mean that Judge Anderson can prove that. But all of us have an obligation to be fair and objective to the readers and consumers of news.
On what do
But
you base
Chief, he
that
doesn't have
belief?
to prove that he's innocent. The state has
No.
to prove he's not guilty.
You're exactly right.
That's the point.
But
If-
there is no court that said he's been wrongly convicted that I know of. So why would you use that term?
When you
There haven't been a
overturn-
finding of that.
When you overturn a conviction, sir, I think that means that they're wrongfully convicted. The conviction is not sound. The conviction cannot stand. That's what I mean by it. But I do want to know, I mean, can you address on what you base your belief?
Well,
It's not evidence
no,
that you believe
no, I'm not going to get into that. But I caution you in how you describe not going forward with a case or refiling the case and equating that with someone that's being innocent. Now, because the charges are dismissed, I will concede he's constitutionally innocent until proven guilty.
Are you guys looking at other suspects? Could there be other people? Or do you still believe this is the guy and you guys just,
I believe that this is our person of interest. There could be other individuals that may come forward that help us in our ongoing investigation. But I'm convinced
why are you?
this is the person that we need to focus on. And I won't get into the evidence, but I just want to make that comment, to be careful about how we describe what just happened here today.
Can anybody speak to that, the police union? I mean, on what do you base the belief? How can you be so sure if the DA has tried her best and can't find evidence to that effect?
I'll reiterate what we said earlier. We believe we had the right man at the time. We continue to believe we had the right man. That's what the witness statements bared out during the original trial, and that's what we'll stick by.
You won't say why?
Do you have additional evidence that have not been put forth or made public that would go against the alibi, would indicate that he was the man at the scene?
I think both the DA and chief have said numerous times that they can't discuss the facts of the case any further. It is an open investigation. It is a capital murder case, and the investigation is still open.